It's been moved by Commissioner Pop and seconded by Commissioner Copeland to forward Z13-01 First Light Church to the City Council. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. We are ready now for item number 2.
Which I think is kind of attached to this one.
Right.
Correct, Amy?
Yep.
All right. I recommend that I move that we approve the combined preliminary plat, final plat, First Light Church, Gardner, FP 1301, and forward it to the City Council with a recommendation to accept the easements and rights-of-way subject to stipulations A and B.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Pop and seconded by Commissioner Manley to approve and forward FP-1301 First Light Church of Gardner to the City Council. Any discussion or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Okay. We are now ready for new business item number 3, and we'll welcome Commissioner Burnett back, and we're ready for the staff presentation.
Yes, thank you. So before you is an application to change the zoning of 18865 Gardner Road from C2 to C3 zoning. The C3 zone would allow the issuance of a land use permit for used car sales at this site. However, it needs to be recognized that this is a request for a rezone and not specifically for that use. It would also allow, the change in zoning would allow a number of other uses as well. Just quickly to look at the property conditions. I guess I can't point with a cursor on this, using this, which is what I was expecting to do, but you can see the property outlined in blue and the building that sits toward the rear of the property. About 2/3 of the building is occupied by a liquor store. About 1/3 is occupied by a convenience store. That's very much an estimate. It could be 3/4 and 1/4. The front of the property is occupied by a canopy with fuel pumps underneath the canopy. What this site plan does not show, what this aerial photo does not show are the cars that are parked for sale, that are on display for sale. What it also doesn't indicate is that there is an easement, an access easement running along the north property line, providing access from Gardner Road to the property to the, it'd be to the east, to the rear of the subject property. This is a photo of the property with the convenience store, liquor store, and the used car sales. This is another photo taken from a different angle. This is actually taken from a car traveling north, on northbound Gardner Road. And this is taken from the, kind of from the west, southwest, northwest. So just to be clear, the application is to change the zoning of 18865 Gardner Road from C2 to C3. Staff has presented a report that makes a recommendation of denial of the rezone and to forward that recommendation to the City Council. The basis for the recommendation are the criteria for applications in Section 18.185.150. The criteria are A through L. This is also based on a comparison of the permitted uses and the conditional uses in the the C2 versus the C3 zoning districts. It's also based somewhat on the development that's anticipated for lands on Gardner Road in proximity to the I-35 interchange. Just to be clear, for each zoning district in the city code lists permitted uses, which are allowed by right, and conditional uses. Conditional uses require approval by the City Council upon a recommendation by the Planning Commission. Uses that are allowed by right don't require any such zoning entitlement. They require site plan review and then can be approved by a building permit. I have attached a copy of each of the chapters that deal with the C2 and C3 zoning districts to the report. I have not attached any information about alternative zoning classifications. If you have questions about those, you're free to ask those, of course, and I'll try to do my best to answer those. So the C2 zone, the intent of the district is it's described as a general business district intended to allow basic retail, service, and office uses. Grocery, convenience stores, limited auto repair are permitted by right. Major auto repair, those that are enclosed in a building primarily. Hotels, sale of new cars are conditional uses. The C3 zone, in contrast, is intended to provide locations for uses as a convenience, quote, to the traveler or require a location on a highway or arterial, close quote. The list of permitted uses in the C3 district, unlike the C2 zone, includes the sale and rental of new and used cars, construction equipment, sale of large and bulky items, and contractors' storage yards. Warehouses, electric utility substation, etc., are conditional uses, and that the excerpts from the code that are attached to the report provide the full range of what those uses are. So just to give you some idea, I don't think I have a way to point from here to the screen, do I? Is there any way to do that, or do you have a laser pointer? That helps. That helps. So the cursor is on the subject property. As you can see, it is in an area that's zoned entirely C2 on the east side of Gardner Road. It's zoned C3 on the west side of Gardner Road. You could say that the property is adjacent to C3 zoning, just to be clear about that. This is a shot from a distance on the map, and just to give you some bearing, the property is about 1,000 feet from the off-ramp from I-35. And 1,000 feet, that's a little less than a quarter of a mile. This is roughly the same size map that's shown in an aerial format with the property outlined in blue. Gives you an idea of what the current conditions are in that area. It's pretty underdeveloped. It's kind of a blank slate for the most part. There have been some somewhat objectionable uses in that area in the past that have been removed. There have been some plans that have been discussed, not necessarily approved by the Commission or Council for various things. In Amy's presentation, she mentioned the criteria that are used based on Kansas State case law for rezoning applications or entitlement applications. And I'll just repeat the paragraph. In considering any application for rezoning request, conditional use permit, or special use permit, Planning Commission and governing body may give consideration to the criteria stated below to the extent that they are pertinent to the particular application. In addition, the Planning Commission and the governing body may consider other factors which may be relevant to a particular application. If you read the criteria, they're not necessarily black and white. They require some judgment. What I've tried to do is provide the best I could a balanced view of how the project or how the proposed rezoning relates to each of those criteria. I'm going to go through these criteria. I haven't written them verbatim on the slides. I've in some cases paraphrased somewhat. So the first one relates to the community development plan and whether it's consistent with the community development plan. In the community development plan, there's a land use map, and this area is in an area shown as commercial. The land use map in that designation does not make a distinction between C2 and C3 zoning. Both of those types of zoning districts are consistent with the land use map. Other policies are not clear in whether they support or do not support the application to rezone the property. I think you could say that it maybe supports it because of the language